Hello, everyone, and welcome to FaM Sports Varsity, our first ever game breakdown for this upcoming week of Section 1 football, where we have a lot of playoffs going on, playoff games. I want to welcome everyone, and my name is Frank Langella, along with my co-host, Marcelio Langella. We made FaM Sports Varsity this year, and want to thank everyone who has helped us build upon our first year of really covering Section 1 football. And for this week, we're actually starting up our first ever game show where we're going to be breaking down each playoff game. And, we're right in the lab. This is where we do our football breakdown, and we're studying all the films. So we're not in a fancy studio.
Yeah,
we are in the lab. We break down tape. We watch these teams play. And there's a lot of good football out there in Section 1. And we want to try to give you the best coverage out there. There's a lot of good coverage there's a lot of good coverage groups like Low HUD and stuff like that. And we'd like try to, supplement, show another high quality product for all those Section 1 football fans out there. And if you guys want to follow us, you can follow us at FaM Sports VF on Twitter. We also have FaM Sports New York on Facebook as well. So if you guys want to follow our different social media platforms, you can. And for this video, we're going to start with Class A, right? And Class A is in my opinion, I think it's the best league in Section 1, just from not so much of the top quality, but there's a lot of good teams in there, right? So, from top to bottom, there's a lot of parity in Class A, and that's why, I call it the best class in Section 1.
I can agree with that. I feel like there's a lot of talent throughout, and there's a lot of good coaching as well. So I feel like it's kind of a highly competitive league. So I can agree with you completely.
It is, and we're going to start with the playoffs. We're going to go through each class, but for this video, we're going to talk about Class A. And the first game I want to talk about is number 8 seed Lords, 4-3, at number 1 John Jay Cross River, who is 7-0, and they play. It's actually tomorrow, 7 p.m. And Lords just upset Nyack in the qualifying round, 13-12. And John Jay Cross River routed Beacon. They played them 2 times in a row. They routed them 33-6. And these two teams played each other week 1, right? So Lords played John Jay Cross River and lost 42-21. So this is a rematch of a week 1 matchup. And, what this game kind of signifies is a matchup of 2 different styles. And it's also a matchup of 2 of the best coaches in Section 1, right? So Brian Walsh of Lords and Coach Jimmy Clark of John Jay Cross River. What I mean by the 2 different styles is Lords is going to come out in multiple formations. They're going to come out under center. They're going to have some tight end wing. They're going to come out and spread a little bit. But John Jay Cross River, they like to control the tempo. So we know John Jay Cross River has been doing a spread for a long period of time. They do it very well. Coach Clark teaches it very well. They like to spread you out. They like to control the tempo. And it's a high reliance on their quarterback. And we'll get into that as we talk about this matchup further. But, I mentioned about the 2 coaches, and these are 2 fantastic coaches, some of the best in the business. Brian Walsh of Lords, just to show you, they both bring consistency, right? No matter year in, year out, what kind of product usually you're going to get from these programs. And Brian Walsh at Lords has won 6 or more games the last 5 years. So he's 4-3 now. He would have to win the next 2 to get to that 6-win total. So it might not get there, but you could tell the consistency that everywhere Walsh goes, that program becomes successful, right? So he's obviously a great coach, but Coach Clark also, he won the section title last year, right? He's won 6 or more games the last now 4 years because now he's 7-0. So this year, including this year, he's won the last 4 years 6 or more games, which is very impressive. I mean, there's times that people have a high, they have a lot of upperclassmen in one class. They win a lot of games. Then the next year it's kind of a rebuild. Not for these 2 guys, right? So they put out a good product, whether they're young, old, doesn't matter, right? So let's get into each team. So we mentioned, we talked about the coaching staff. So you obviously got 2 very good coaches matched up against each other. For Lords, let's start with their defense, okay? They give up 18.4 points per game, which is tied for 11th, okay? And there's I think there's 22 teams, in Class A. They've allowed 12 or less points 4 out of the last 5 games. So the defense is starting to click, right? And this is a young team. Okay, so there's a lot of credit that goes into this Lords team. They're very young. They do have some upperclassmen that are leading the way for them. But overall, the team is young. Offensively, they're averaging 24.3 points per game. That's also 11th. Okay, so they have won 3 straight games. They're led by a couple upperclassmen. And, a couple of those guys, number 4, Mario Hickey, who's running back and linebacker, and number 52, the big tackle, Jake Tim. These are the 2 guys that I see leading the charge. And Hickey he's a guy that plays some fullback. He plays some tailback. He's playing on the defensive end. This kid, he is the heart and soul of the run game. Now, they throw out a couple different guys, but this guy is the power runner of the team, right, in my opinion. And Jake Tim is one of the best tackles in Section 1. And obviously he's got a lot of, I think he's committed to his school, but he had a lot of people looking at him. He's one of my favorite linemen to watch in Section 1 AA. And these 2 guys are leading the way. But then I mentioned the young guys, right? So Salato, the running back, number 23, young running back. He's a guy who stepped in and he's played well. Brandon Jorgensen, who is their quarterback, who is another kid who lately he's been on fire. And in that NIAC game specifically, he helped lead that final game-winning drive. And so he's another sophomore quarterback who has really come onto the scene. And people in Section 1 should start paying attention to this kid. And he's had success finding guys like Krause, who's a very good athlete. He plays both sides of the ball. And their big tight end, number 87. Now, I'm terrible with names. Anyone who knows who I am, who follows FaM Sports Varsity, I screw up names all the time. But number 87, Rapoyea, I hope I got it right if he's listening to the show. But he's a big tight end, young tight end who they move him out wide. They move him into the tight end spot. He's another big-time playmaker. So that's what I love about young teams is you don't know their ceiling, right? They don't know their ceiling. And then when they start winning, now you can start building on top of stuff. But you see that mix of young and old that they have. And it's a very interesting game. So this young Lords team is going to go into John Jay, which they've already lost week 1, but it feels like this is not that same team. So I could see a more competitive matchup. You have anything about Lords, before we get into John Jay?
Well, the thing is, Walsh is a legendary coach.
He is.
So, that's what really can kind of set you apart based in Section 1 alone, right? You have a young team. Yeah, you have a young team, but you can always magnify the talent by the coaching staff, right? Yeah. And Walsh is already known as a legendary coach. So that's what puts Lords on the map. Yeah. They know that they can compete with anybody because of the coaching staff, and not let alone the talent they have on this team.
And like what Walsh does is the product's going to get better over time. Yeah. Right. So you could start young, and maybe you won't have it at that moment, but the team will get better as the season goes along. And Walsh is very good at doing a couple things. He throws in a couple wrinkles. So against NIAC, they came out in a tackle over concept. For the game-winning touchdown, right? So they motioned the guy to get into quads. They were tackle over, so it confused the defense, and that's what good coaches do. They set their team up for success. So that's something very, really important. And we mentioned that they're going to throw different stuff at John Jay. Now, if that works, that's another question. But let's get into John Jay, okay? Because this is a powerhouse team right over the last 2 years, and you would think the amount of people they lost, like their quarterback Ford, that they would take a step back, and that's not the case, right? So they're the number 1 seed for a reason. Offensively, they're averaging 39.3 points per game, which is number 2 in 1A, okay? And they've scored at least 35 points in 3 of the last 4 games. They're running a track meet, right? Defensively, they're also pretty darn good. Only giving up 13 points per game, which is 4th in 1A. Okay, so they have a top 5 offense and defense in 1A. There's a reason, because they're the number 1 seed. And it all starts, John Jay Cross River has starting to become quarterback U. Right, quarterback, it's not a university, but it's quarterback U, as in they are starting to produce a high-level quarterback every time on the offensive end. And it's no different from this year. Number 15, Luke Mercer, the senior, who was a outstanding wide receiver last year, and he's an outstanding lacrosse player. But now he moves to quarterback, and they haven't missed a beat. And, this offense is predicated. They spread you out. The quarterback runs the show, right? He's got to throw the ball. He's got to run the ball. He really carries the load. There's other, obviously, great players on this team, but it all starts with him. And he's got over 1,400 yards total offense. He's got over 23 touchdowns. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of points, and he's going to be a back-of-the-year candidate. So it's just amazing how they continue to produce these type of offensive juggernauts at the quarterback spot. But he also has weapons, right? The quarterback can't do it on his own. He's throwing to guys like Maraglia, Gallagher, Chang. These are weapons on the outside, right? So he's got people he can throw to. Got a good mix of size, shiftiness, speed, but they got good hands. And it's always in the Cross River brand of having a super athlete at quarterback and weapons on the outside, right? I mean, how long we've been talking Section 1 football. We've coached Section 1 football for a while. When you see John Jay Cross River, this is what you know to expect: an athletic quarterback and wide receivers on the outside who can catch and run, right?
Yeah, no. Every athlete I've always known in John Jay Cross River were versatile. Yep. They can do multiple different things, and they're going to attack you in many different ways. And that's kind of like the deadliest thing you can see about this team is that they, first off, in the stat sheet, they're showing you how deadly they are. But just by watching them, you could say, wow, there's so many different kids that can hurt you.
And they do a lot of different things out of the spread. Now, they're not a air raid offense, right? They like to run the ball. They run the power. They'll run power. They'll run, zones. They'll run all this type of stuff involving the quarterback or the running back. But the most shocking thing to me about John Jay Cross River was really up front. Now, we knew they always have good athletes, but how are they on the line of scrimmage? And this year, they've been very impressive, even though they've lost plenty of players from the last the last graduating class. And, two kids that really come to mind when I watch John Jay Cross River is Shane Martinson, okay? Now, I knew he was good coming into the year, but he is a fantastic player, especially on the defensive end. He's extremely disruptive. I mentioned that John Jay Cross River is bringing out a good defense as well. It's not just an offensive showcase. And this kid kind of is the engine of that defense. He is the best D-lineman. He's one of the best D-linemen in Section 1. Whenever an offensive mind has to play Cross River, and I know probably Coach Walsh is studying this kid. They have to block this kid. And that matchup between him and Jake Tim is one that's going to be really exciting. I know everyone talks about backs and wide receivers and DBs and those guys going against each other. We kind of like looking at linemen. And that's not the sexy position, but it is one of the most important. And Jake Tim, the big tackle from Lourdes, and Shane Martinson, the big D end, he's not just an outside contain guy. He's great when he's going inside, when he's doing an inside move, when he's veering inside. That's when this kid is really special.
Well, just the mantra of football: the battle is won in the trenches, right? And that's really what's going to really set the tone of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and another one, number 53, Matthew Furr. He's another underclassman, D lineman, O lineman. He's another kid that's been very impressive. So, John Jay, although lost a lot of kids, they've reshuffled it really well, and it's put them in a spot to try to repeat as champions. It's a lot to overcome, a lot. And so the question that I'm going to impose is, what does Lourdes need to do to pull the upset?
Well, it's really going to depend on the defense. I mean, can you bottle up a lot of these skill positions that have so many opportunities to hurt you? And I think, obviously, winning up the trench battle, right? That's really the first start, I think, that's going to at least slow down this offensive juggernaut that Cross River always develops, right? Where they can not only hurt you on the run, they hurt you on the pass as well. It's really controlling the line of scrimmage. If you can control line of scrimmage, at least slows down the thought process of a lot of these of the great coaching staff in John Jay, but also it slows down these incredible athletes, right? And I think that's really what sets you apart in this game.
I think if they could get the score below 30 points, if John Jay Cross River doesn't score 30 points, I think you're in a good position to win. And it all starts with stopping Luke Mercer. And it's a lot easier said than done. Every defensive coach that John Jay Cross River has played has said we need to stop Luke Mercer, right? But that doesn't mean you can. because of how electric this kid is running the ball and passing. So, we say these things, that you got to stop Luke Mercer. Everyone says that, right? But can you do it? And it starts really up front. If you can control the line of scrimmage, it's hard to break big-time plays when there's constant disruption in the backfield. And so the Lords, for Lords, it's definitely going to be probably one of the things that they're focusing on. And another thing on the offensive end for Lords, they can't turn the ball over, right? They have to play a clean game. When you're the underdog, you have to usually force some turnovers and play a clean game on the other end. You got to win the turnover battle. And I mentioned the young quarterback. Lords is starting to air the ball out, and it's because their young quarterback is playing well. And so you got to continue to do that. You got a guy like Martinson. It's going to be hard to run the ball at him, right? It's going to be hard. Now, Jake Tim's a very good tackle, but you're not going to win that battle every time. And there may be times that Jake is not up against him. How are the other offensive linemen going to do against him, right? So that these are really important things. Controlling the line of scrimmage and winning the turnover battle, those are probably the two biggest things that are going to give them a chance to win. You got to get Cross River below 30 points. It's hard to keep up. If Cross River's running a Kentucky Derby on you, you're not going to match them in points. But you got to get them back down to your level, a more reasonable level. All right, so we're going to go through each game matchup. Obviously we went through this one. At the end, we're going to pick the games that we think are going to win, who's going to go to the semifinals. But just for reference, Lohud has picked John Jay Cross River. There's no surprise on that one.
No,
right, so let's go.
Really
let's go to the next one. Another really cool matchup. Number 7 Clarkstown North at number 2 Somers. So Clarkstown North is 4-3, and they're playing the 6-1 Somers Tuskers. And Clarkstown North upset their rival Clarkstown South 20-0 in the qualifying round to get to this point. It was one of the shocking games of the week, even though I did pick that as the upset of the week last week.
To you.
Yeah, and because it's hard to beat a team, especially a rival, 2 times in a row. So obviously Clarkstown North came to play and they pulled the upset. Somers routed Tappan Z 56-12. So Somers is a team that is on a roll. They look like one of those contenders that we said before the season that they could be one of the Final Four, and they're looking that part right now. They haven't played each other over the last 15 years. So it's an interesting matchup because Clarkstown North is a wing T style offense, and so is Somers. So it's kind of mirror images of each other. Not exactly images, but somewhat near images of each other. And they haven't played each other. So, Clarkstown North, let's dive into them. They were very different from the beginning of the season. Now, when they started the season, their offense was really struggling. Okay, and what they did was they tried to change their scheme. They were in shotgun in the beginning of the season. Now they went, let's get back to our identity, which is under center, running the wing T stuff. And it has really changed them. Okay, so they're running now all that wing T stuff, tight end wing, T formations, getting the halfbacks involved. And it just, they didn't completely change their offense, but it was more just getting back to what made them Clarkstown North. And I think that was obviously a huge success. Offensively, they're averaging 18.4 points a game, which is 15th, which is, not a great overall number. But they scored only 7 points in the first 2 weeks. You got to remember that. Since then, they've had 20 or more points 4 out of the last 5 weeks. Okay, so clearly that change has opened up their offense. And it really starts, Mars, playing wing T football and studying wing T football, it starts with the fullback, right? If you don't have a fullback, you can't really run the wing T. You need a guy who can run downhill. He can run the bellies. He can run the downs. He can run really up the center's butt. He can get you the 2 to 3 yards, kind of to set up your offense, right? And they have one in Tristan Lepson, the senior fullback, number 45. Not a huge kid, but he runs huge. And that's important, right? Any type of offense in wing T, they need that kind of guy who runs through that arm tackle, takes more than one guy to tackle him, right? And then, like any other Clarkstown North team, which, again, they've been competitive for a long period of time now, they're going to throw multiple halfbacks at you. And those halfbacks got to be able to run jet sweep, buck sweep, counter scissors. That's one of the famous Clarkstown North plays, is running those counters. And they have those guys, right? Number 20, number 20, Jane Paul. Number 31, Colin. And number 21, Budnick. Those kids, they'll throw those kids at you. I know I butchered number 20's name, and I feel terrible about it, but he's a fantastic player. These these are kids that can bust the game open with those sweeps, and they actually are pretty good blocking guys too. So you can't isolate one kid like this kid can only run, he can't really block. They get halfbacks out there that can block, and those kids, these are versatile kids. Um, Really quick on the offense, you have anything you want to share about the wing T? You know, we've played against the wing T. The wing T is still prominent in Section 1 football, and it's because it has a lot of success.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a lot of it has to do with the ground and pound, right? Like you said, it's really dependent on the guys who are going to carry the rock, right? Can they do it effectively, and can they gain those grinding yards, right? And as long as you can have a consistent basis of having a good fullback and some good halfbacks that kind of give you those grind yards, then your offense is going to do pretty well. That's what I remember, and just against coaching against it, playing with a version of the wing T, that's really the biggest part of that.
Yep. Absolutely. And so that's the offense. Also, number 21, Budnick. He's also a fantastic returner, too. That's an aspect in special teams. People always talk about offense, defense, but all coaches know that special teams is a huge part, and he's one of the best returners in Section 1. So that's kind of something to keep your mind on as well. How about defensively? This is where Clarkstown North. Everyone talks about the changes the offense made. Clarkstown North, they only give up 10.9 points per game. Number 2 in 1A. And that's huge. If you have a good defense, you will always have a chance. And there's no better explanation than that than Clarkstown North, who has had a good defense, and now the offense starts to get rolling, and now you're seeing rattling off wins, right? Because if you have a good defense, you always got a shot. And they have an aggressive defense. Who's pretty good on the back end. Budnick, he's running around at free safety. He makes a lot of plays, right? So, that kid, not just on offense, but defense, he's roaming around in that free safety spot. He kind of plays like a center fielder, but he's aggressive, right? And they're coming at you in Clarkstown North. And you could tell, they rally to the ball. They're not small up front, so, they have some size to them. They're not overly huge, but they're always coming after people. And they've given up 28 total points the last 5 weeks. That's awesome. Right, 28 points in 5 weeks. That's great. And they're going to be playing up against a big offensive line and obviously a big fullback. We'll probably get into Somers. But Mars, if you have a good defense, it's an opportunity to cause an upset because you're going to keep the game low scoring and you keep the game close.
Yeah, I mean, defense is really what sets teams apart in Section 1, right? If you have a good defense, you're always in the game, no matter what team you play against. And even though Somers is a powerhouse, you have to understand that a good defense can bottle them up, right? And that's really that's probably Clarkstown North, like you said, is their best asset is their defense.
It is, and also they control the time possession, and that's what happens when you run the ball well. Now for Somers, okay, Somers is the big boys. They're the team to beat outside of, obviously, John Jay Cross River. They've been probably the second most impressive team in 1A. And they've won 5 straight since their loss to Yorktown. So they're on a roll. They're starting to click on all cylinders. And starting on the offensive end, they're averaging 35.6 points per game, which is number 3 in 1A. Okay, so the offense is putting up points, and it all starts, they run the similar wing T style. Not exactly the same as Clarkstown North. They have an awesome fullback, right? Number 44, Jack Kaiser, the junior. He is the engine of their offense. He gets a lot of carries. And the thing that impresses me the most about this kid, and I've gone over it time and time again, is he's never losing yards. Never. When people are meeting him in the backfield, he's still getting 2 yards. Which is a awesome trait for a running back. That's what colleges look for in running backs, just so anyone watching. The running back that can always make that first guy miss. Now, they won't always make a miss, but for the most part, that first guy never brings them down, and they never lose yards. They're always gaining positive yards, even when they're met in the backfield, and this kid has that trait. He's an absolute beast. And in that wing T offense, that's kind of where it all starts. But they also have multiple halfbacks they can throw at you, just like Clarkstown North. And it starts with Valencia. He was injured. He's back. He made a lot of plays in their last game against Tappan Z. He's dangerous. and dangerous in a good way, right? He's very dangerous to opposing defenses by his ability to catch the ball and run at the halfback spot in this wing T offense, which is sweeps, counters, stuff like that. He's big kid, runs hard, he's very elusive. So he's obviously the most dangerous. But they also have Deegan and Rosenweg. And, those guys they carried the load when Balancia was out. They did a fantastic job as well. So they have multiple halfbacks that they can throw at you. They're a little bit more explosive than Clarkstown North. Obviously, they also have a quarterback who can run the ball well. And that's number 2, Jackson Kazow. And, he's another big kid who can use his legs. And they can hit you multiple ways. This offense is dangerous, Mars. When you have guys at each level who can make plays, that's when it's hard to, everyone focuses on the fullback and wing T, but they can beat you up in multiple ways, and that's what makes Somers very dangerous offensively.
Of course. I mean, Kaiser, like you said, he's a phenom, right? He's been a phenom since he stepped on the field last year, right? And I'm wondering, can anyone stop him, right? That's really the biggest question. I mean, looking at the playoffs, is Somers is going to ride on the back of Kaiser. Right? As long as he's running and he's steamrolling, they're going to follow him right to the end zone.
And why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah.
Defensively, 13.3 points a game, which is 5th. It's still a pretty darn good. Now, I think this is their, I'm not going to say a weakness, because when you're 5th in the league, it's not really a weakness, but it's not as strong as their offense. But I love what they bring up front, okay? Some questions about the linebacker and secondary spot. But up front, I really love what they bring, and it's 2 guys, Cheek and Grindrod, that they're disruptors, right? Number 77, number 40, they move around, they slant. These guys are hard to block. They're not overly big, but they use their speed and they use their feet really well, and they use their hands. And this is what you want to see in D linemen, right? A lot of D linemen like to just overpower people, and there are strong kids who are very successful at it. But you want to see D linemen using their hands. You want to see them using their leverage. And these 2 kids do that very well. And I think they're the key to this defense. If they can get into the backfield, if they can get to the fullback before he starts rolling. In wing T, they like to pull guards. If you're disrupting, if you're causing penetration, it's hard for those guards to pull. And these are the 2 kids that up front are, they're going to be tough to block. Especially down blocking on them, because they're fast, because they slant hard, because they're good at penetrating. This is going to be a difficult test for Clarkstown North to stop these 2 guys. And if you got a good defensive line, it makes everyone better.
Of course, it really does, and that's the biggest thing that's going to set apart, Somers compared to Clarkstown North, is that even though Somers doesn't have a top 2 defense like Clarkstown North may have when it comes to points, they are no slouch, right? They are not going to slow up. So not only do they have a top 5 defense, but they have a top 5 offense. That's just a dynamic duo to have in this league. And in Section 1 in general, it's really hard to be a top 5 in both, especially in points, right? So Somers is just a deadly team to meet in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up, let's talk about number 6, Fox Lane, 5-2 at number 3, Rye, who's 6-1. And Rye was my preseason pick to win it all in 1A. And Fox Lane, they won at Lakeland 20-0. They were very impressive, even though Fox Lane took a step back. The 2 previous weeks, they bounced back in a big fashion. Rye won versus Harrison, their rival, 21-7. So, it's always hard. It was a close game, but Rye, it's hard to beat your rival multiple times, so Rye got the job done. That's pretty much the most important. Rye has won 6 or more games the last 7 years. So they've obviously been extremely consistent. They're one of the best programs in 1A. But let's look at Fox Lane, okay? They have a good mix of young kids and upperclassmen, okay? Fox Lane's offense, they average 20.7 points per game, which is number 12 in 1A. And it all starts with number 32, the big running back, Michael Washington, the senior. This kid is a big and powerful running back. He runs downhill. Everyone who's watched him play Lakeland, he tortured them. He really did. He broke a lot of tackles. There was one time that he absolutely ran over a safety on a long run, which you could see on the sideline got everyone excited. So the game, the offensive plan starts with him. He has over 10 rushing touchdowns. He's big and powerful. And Fox Lane has a solid line up front. Okay, so they have some decent size. They have a powerful running back. This is their remedy. This is how you keep Rye's powerful offense on the sideline. And it's going to be up, I'm sure Rye is going to be focusing on to stop him. And then it's going to come down to their quarterback, number 10, Spencer Rowley, the senior. He's got to target Olsen. He's got to target tight end Friedman, number 24, Vasquez, who had a big touchdown against Lakeland. These are all important things. They're going to have to make some plays in the passing game because I'm sure Rye is going to be hell-bent on stopping Washington. Defensively, Mars, 15.3 points per game. They're number 8 in 1A, and pretty good. They bounced back last week with a shutout because the previous 2 games, the defense was struggling. They gave up 70 points in those 2 weeks. That's too much. But they have good defensive speed. They rally to the ball. They're led by their 2 linebackers, Lapino and Vasquez. I really like the way that those 2 guys play. They're very, they have multiple kids on that back end that they rally to the ball. But also D lineman Kazurski, he makes plays, right? So I watched I watched a few times Fox Lane play, and this kid stood out as well. So they got a good mix. They do, and Fox Lane. Not many people thought they'd be very good. They're a very feel-good story. Being at 5-2 is pretty impressive.
Of course. I mean, Fox Lane is really living the underdog story, right? I mean, but I think that the offensive line and defensive line is really what I find really impressive about them. They, like I always keep saying, I'm an offensive line guy, right? I mean, played it, coached it. The biggest thing that sets the teams apart is the trench warfare, right? Who wins? And Fox Lane has that. They have that edge when it comes to the line, right? And now, I mean, obviously, Rye is a powerhouse, and we'll go into Rye now.
So Rye, they're starting to get healthy, like you mentioned. They are a powerhouse. They're starting to get healthy at the right time. Although I'm not very sure about one of their really good linemen, Myers, their center, but they got talent at each level, and that's what makes this team dangerous. That's why I had them picked to be the champion in 1A. And offensively, this is where they're really impressive, but they're also very good defensively. So offensively, 34.4 points per game, which is number 4 in 1A, and it starts with their quarterback. Okay, this kid's a very good quarterback. He was one of Frank's finest, clearly. Number 7, Declan Lavelle. I don't know if it's Lavelle or Lavelli. And one of them are going to have to tell me. But if they're watching it, he is one of their best players, and he has over 18 total touchdowns, throwing and passing. He can really do it all. Now, he hasn't run as much as he has last year, but he can make all the throws. He can run when he can, and they like to throw. They do, and I don't blame them, because when you have a quarterback like that, everyone likes to throw the ball, and they have a lot of weapons on the outside. But this is what you love, man. They have a big offensive line, big and strong. Okay, and they're returning one of their best ones in Greto. They're also led by one of their other O-linemen, Junior. They have 2 big tackles, right, and they have guards and centers that can move. So it's a good mix of size and speed and strength, and this is where it starts for them. Everyone talks about their weapons, and they have a lot of them, but up front is what I found to be most impressive of them preseason, and they have an offensive line that can bring them to the championship. And these guys are impressive, right? They can move the line of scrimmage. They can pass protect. These are a couple things that, makes this offense explosive, and they are. When they're rolling, they really can put up a lot of points in a hurry, and it starts up front. Really quick about their weapons. I mean, the names just keep coming. Quinn Kelly, Mackle, who's a big wide receiver, Tebedino, Caden Whaling, Brendan Lavelle, or Lavelli, I don't know, but it's one of the names just keep coming. I mean, they got multiple kids who can do multiple things, and whether it's running or passing, they have size, they have the smaller, shiftier wide receivers. It's a mix of a lot of really good things, and that's a formula that they could beat you multiple ways. So if you stop one of theirs, you stop the run game, well, they could throw. If you could stop the passing game, they could run. So that's what makes this offense deadly. I mean, before we get to their defense, you have anything?
I mean, arguably, if they didn't lose that close game to Somers, this team overall was considered the best team in Section 1.
I thought before the season started, yep.
Right, so that's what really, if it wasn't for injuries, you could be making a different case right now. So that my thing is that this team being ranked 3 is doing them disjustice. I mean, they are a better team than ranked 3, and that's what makes them scary. Is that now they're going to try to show you that they're the top team.
Yeah, absolutely. Defensively, everyone talks about the offense, but defensively, 12.4 points a game, which gives them number 3 rank in 1A, which is pretty darn good. They've given up 13 or less in 4 straight games. And I think it's led by one of the best secondaries in 1A. And, they have multiple kids in that facet as well. And I'm not going to go too deep into it, but Lohud has Rye winning. Really quick, Mars, we kind of described what Fox Lane needs to do. They got to run the ball. They got to keep this powerful Rye offense on the sidelines is what they really need to do. And defensively, those linebackers have to be very active. They got to get to the quarterback.
Yeah, you have to be disruptive. I mean, that's the biggest thing, especially in high school sports. The quarterback has to feel the pressure. Absolutely. If he does not feel the pressure, then the problem is that he's going to have all day to throw, and you do not want Rye to have all day to throw.
No, you don't. Let's get to our last one. All right, number 5, Yorktown, who's 6-1, at number 4, Brewster, who is also 6-1. And this is the most interesting matchup, in my opinion. Yorktown beat Hen Hud 40-6. Brewster beat Pelham 49-14. And Yorktown is 4-0 versus Brewster, dating back to 2004. They last played in 2015, where Yorktown won. So there is history between these two teams. Let's start with Yorktown, who has the best offense in 1A. You think with all the John Jays, with Rye, with Somers, it's actually Yorktown who has the number 1 offense, and they're averaging 39.7 points per game. They have had 5 40-point games this season, and that that's explosive, right? That is it takes the words right out of your mouth, and it starts. They have a 3-headed running monster, right? So, and what I mean is they can run the ball with multiple people, and it starts with Dylan Smith, number 8, the senior, who's got over 1,000 yards rushing and 13 touchdowns. It's been extremely impressive that this kid, he's one of the best backs in 1A. Before the season, I studied the entire league, and I knew this kid was talented, but he's really exploded. And he's one of the leading rushers in all of Section 1. And this kid at 5'10", 180 pounds, it's good size, right? But it's not an imposing figure. But this kid imposes his will on defenses. But they also have another scat back / wide receiver in Keith Boyer, number 12. He's got 10 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown. He was on one of my play breakdowns earlier this year against Somers. This kid's another. You got over 23 touchdowns between the two. That's a lot. That's a lot of success between two players. They really do carry the load between those two guys. And finally, their quarterback, who is the X factor of this offense, Trayvon Johnson. He's a dual threat quarterback. 445 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 441 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns. So you're talking about a kid who can do it both ways. He is really the X factor of the team. But Mars, you looked at this O-line, and this O-line plays very well. They returned a lot of offensive linemen from last year, and to run the ball this much, you have to have some good offensive line.
Of course, they're the top offense, right, for a reason, right? And I think it's really starting up front, right? Having these monsters up front that clear the way for the 3-headed monster, like you said. That's the reason why they're so good, right? And they can do anything. It's almost like they impose their will on any team they play against, right? And it's kind of a scary thought that how are you going to stop this thing?
Yeah.
How are you going to stop this 3-headed monster that Yorktown has? How can you do it?
It is. It's tough, and Nyack did it, and they did it using their speed. So you're going to see if Brewster can match that speed, but it's difficult. Defensively, they're also very good defensively. Now, before the season started, I predicted that they would be the top defense in 1A. They kind of let me down a little bit, but not too much, right? They give up 13.4 points per game, which is 6th in 1A. The last 2 weeks, they've given up 6 total points. So the offense is starting to get it together, okay? And they have good size up front. You mentioned that the offensive line, that they've paved the way for this 3-headed monster. Well, defensive line has made everyone else better, okay? So that D-line, they come after you. They got solid size. They have good speed. And the linebackers are my favorite part of Yorktown, All right, I think they play very good. They're very active, and they're led by number 1 Robinson, who is a very tough defensive player. And I really like, I know that they've given up before these last 2 weeks. They were giving up some points. It seemed like they were taking a step back, but they seemed to turn it around. This is the defense that I saw preseason starting to click on all cylinders, which is going to make Yorktown a very difficult team to play. Let's go to Brewster now, unless you have anything else on Yorktown.
No, I think the big man up front on the all line kind of carries over the D line, like absolutely. You said. So, I think that it really starts up with them in the trenches.
Yep, Brewster, this is another surprise team. I've been on the Brewster bandwagon a while, early in the season. They were also very impressive to me when I watched them. 6-1. They have had a great season. Offensively, 31.3 points per game. That's ranked 5th in 1A. And there's one kid who he's been extremely impressive to me. And that's Thomas Consolado, number 23, the running back. You know my affinity. I'm a short guy, so my affinity for shorter players who do big things, you have a special place in my heart, which this kid's not a big kid, 5'7", but, 170 pounds. He plays bigger than he is, and he is a tough kid. He's got 572 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns, and he also can catch the ball. 308 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. This kid is the number 1 option for Brewster on offense. But they have others. Christian Rhodes, Justin Niles, Mike Martinez. These kids have all accounted for over 700 total yards. Christian Rhodes, he's an interesting player. He gets moved to quarterback. Sometimes they do the power read with him. So, Yorktown's going to have to look for multiple players that they're going to come at you. But Consolado is the number 1 guy. And don't mistake about it. He is their number 1 option. And they're going to have to slow him down. Also, number 2, the quarterback. Young kid, 6'3", Chris Donahue. He's been impressive. 11 touchdown passes for a sophomore. It's pretty good. He's a big kid. Came onto the scene this year. He's been impressive. Defensively, this is where you're going to be impressed, man. We both watched Brewster. They have the number 1 defense in 1A. For the season, who would have thought that, right? 10.7 points per game. Only one game this year they've allowed more than 14 points. One game, and that was against John Jay, Cross River. Outside of that, the defense has been stifling, and they are led up front, okay? It's not hard to see those top 4 or 5 teams. You look in the trenches, and you'll see why, okay? Number 54, Franco Milano, the junior, he's a very good defensive player. Very good. 6'3", 248 pounds, big kid, and he's very disruptive. It all starts up front for them. I think he leads the way. They also have good linebacker play. So I really like what Brewster brings defensively. And so, I described offensively, defensively. This is an interesting matchup versus Yorktown.
Oh, this is going to be a battle for sure. In my opinion, you look at, based on points, the best defense in Brewster versus the best offense in Yorktown. This is the showdown that we're watching for, right? And this is what football's made about, right? This is what you want to watch.
Absolutely. And so we've gone through each phase of Class A. And so let's go to the final part, which is picking the games. We went through each matchup. We talked about what we've seen from each team this year. And let's go quickly through it. Before the season, Mars, I picked 4 finalists, 4 semis. And that was John Jay, Cross River, Yorktown, Somers, and Rye. So, to be honest, I can't go back. I've come this far, right? So that's the final 4 I'm going to go with. Nothing has changed my mind. I picked them before the season. I am going to stick with my guns. I'm going John Jay, Cross River over Lords. I think Lords keeps it close in the first half. John Jay, Cross River pulls away. Somers over Clarkstown North. Somers is just a little too explosive for North. North will not be able to keep up, although I love Clarkstown North, how they've been playing on defense. It's a little different playing against the heavyweight fighter that is Jack Kaiser. I'm taking number 3 Rye over Fox Lane. I think Rye is getting healthy at the right time. It will also be too much for Fox Lane. And I am taking Yorktown over Brewster. I'm going with the top offense over the top defense. And not so much, I think, it's Yorktown that wins that battle because a good defense will always keep an offense somewhat in check. But I think Yorktown's defense is starting to figure it out. And I think that's what's going to be the big difference.
Well, mine's going to be similar to yours. I feel like John Jay Cross River, just like yours, they have yet to prove that they can be beaten, clearly, by their record. So I feel like it's really hard to show up as the 8th seed and beat the number 1 seed. And even though Walsh is a great coach and he has a young team, I just feel like this year is not the year. I feel like maybe next year, when they get older, they have another year of experience under their belt, they can be the next team. But not right now. You can't beat John Jay Cross River when they're on a roll, as dominant as they are. You look at Somers. Somers is always in the power. They're always a contender. Yep. So my thing is that they're used to this moment. Clarkstown North may not be as used to it, right? They lost a few games this season. They're 4-3 going against the Somers team that has some very big games, and they pulled it off. Being 6-1, I feel like they're gonna ride the back of Kaiser, and how far Kaiser can bring them is where they're gonna go. I agree with you. I think Rye will pull it off. Rye, in my opinion, probably is the best team in Section 1A. And I just feel like you said, they're getting healthy at the right time. They lost a battle against Somers because of, I think, injuries that piled up for them. And I think they're on a vengeance. I think they want to see that game one more time against Somers. But I'm going to change my opinion. I think Brewster is going to pull it off. I think Brewster is ranked higher for a reason. They have the best defense in Section 1A, and that is a very hard thing to get. Section 1A is loaded with talent, loaded with good coaching, and when you are the best defense in Section 1A, 9 times out of 10, the best defense beats the best offense.
Well, we shall see. I think that's one of the best matchups of this week. Last thing before we go, when we say goodbye to everyone covering this Class 1A, I want to give a shout out to there is one team and this is the non-playoff teams, a team that has impressed us, and we both agree with this one, and that's Nyack. Now Nyack lost a really heartbreaking to Lourdes, but they're 5-2, and they showed you a program that knows how to rebuild. Okay, so Coach Jones has done a fantastic job, and back in 2016, it felt like a low point for Nyack when they went 3-6. And when they made the coaching change and Coach Jones came in, they've improved their win totals each year. So 2017, 4 wins, 2018, 5 wins. And this year, they're already at 5-2. I see them winning their 6th game this week. And it just shows you the progression at Nyack. Nyack actually, used to be very competitive in 1A. They used to be one of those juggernauts. And they're looking to get back to that stage that has seemed like it went away for a while. And I think this progression is showing that, this coaching staff knows what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I'm only expecting great things for them next year. And it's unfortunate that they couldn't be in this race, but you know what? Section 1A has so many good teams there's always that one team that just misses the cut, and that's Nyack.
And that's when you have a lot of good teams. It's hard to get. Only the top 8 make it. And it's difficult. You lose that qualifying round, and, you have a great season, but you fall short.
Yeah.
Well, that was our show. We appreciate everyone who tuned in to our Class A breakdown. We're also going to be posting videos of Class AA, B, and C. So tune into that. Again, you guys can follow us at FaM Sports VF on Twitter. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We hope that you all enjoy this weekend's games.